friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Caitlin and I like to do eyeshadow palette ranking and review videos, as well as the occasional other beauty content sprinkled in. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, I highly recommend that you hit that subscribe button because I post 2 videos every single week. And for those of you that are not new here, my face is happy that you are seeing it again. And my face might look a little bit crusty because I did my makeup this morning and I'm filming this the night before it's going live because I cannot put this video off anymore. For those of you that have been here, you know that typically my monthly ranking video is like the first video to go up each month, but it is January 21st when you're watching this, if you're watching it the day that it goes up. So things went astray this month. I was really sick at the beginning of the year and that just threw off my whole filming upload schedule. So anyways, here we are. So I wanted to make sure to get this up now before it was like truly the end of the month. But basically what we are doing, for those of you that are new here, we are going to rank every eyeshadow palette that I used in the month of December. So some of these palettes may be new, some of them may be older. It's just whatever palettes I reach for. And I like to rank my palettes this way because I like to kind of stack, like, how much do I like the palettes that, you know, that are new to me? Like, do I like them more than stuff I already had? You know, for me, it's nice to see that. So that's why I rank them this way. If that's something you're interested in, please hit that like button so that I know that you like this kind of content. And make sure you subscribe if you're not already, because we do this every single month. This is the last one for 2022. And yeah, let's go ahead and get on into it. For those of you that are not new here, I'm sorry if this is redundant, but I feel like I gotta explain it in case we got new viewers. I rank my palettes not by number, I go by category. So I have 4 categories. I have a meh category, a like category, a really like category, and a love category. So I have split my palettes into those 4 categories. I will tell you what categories we're talking about as we're going through it, and I do sort of have them in order. So I have racked and stacked them so that, like, my favorite is going to be the last one that we talk about, but that is so fickle that I like the categories. Although we did discover one month that I'm a little bit fickle with my categories too, because I ranked them when I was hangry one time and like almost everything ended up on the lower categories. So anyways, let's start out with the meh category. And the first palette I'm going to talk about is the Natasha Denona Safari palette. And I actually used to really like this palette, but I hadn't reached for it in a while. And I just reached for it recently in December. And it was so patchy. It just didn't blend well. It was just not what I'm used to with Natasha's mattes. And it's not the quality that I remembered with this palette. So I don't know if it was the look I did. I don't know if it was me that day. This is an older palette, so I'm kind of thinking it was probably more of a quality issue. I think, you know, this palette has seen better days. So if you watch my declutter, I did mention that I was going to put this in like a sentimental pile of palettes, which why I'm sentimental about this palette, I don't know, but I really am having a hard time wanting. I think it's because it's my first Natasha Denona palette. So this was the first palette that I like really went in and spent money on. I mean, it was on sale, so I didn't spend the full price, but still, maybe that's why. But anyways, next up, and I feel kind of bad about this one, but this is the Vive 90s palette. First of all, the packaging is gorgeous, and I do like this color story. It's just every look I've done with it, I've been like meh about. Like, I've never done a look with this palette that I've been like, oh my god, that's amazing. I think this is a good like standby palette, like a good sturdy, like, if you just want to have like a good eye look and you don't have a ton of time, like, this palette will get you there. The mattes blend really well, the shimmers blend really well, but I've never done a look with it that I've loved. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I do follow, I think it's like, is her name, it's like Nicole, I want to say it's like Stevens Nicole or something on Instagram. I can't remember off the top of my head. If I remember, I'll try and put her Instagram handle in the description box. But she does looks with this palette all the time that I think look amazing. And I don't know what it is. I just can't do something with this palette that I really like. So That's why I have it here. Okay, so we only had 2 palettes in the meh category. We're now moving on to the light category. So these are all palettes that I like. I like them. I'm like, yeah, it's a nice palette. That's that sums up my feelings on pretty much all of these. So getting started, my dog is barking. So getting started, we have the Bella Beauty Bar and Lexi Lala Makeup collab. This is the CEO of the Rainbow palette. This is the Bella... First up in this category, we have the Bella Beauty Bar and Lexi Lala Makeup collab. This is the CEO of the Rainbow palette, and it is a nice palette. I've only gotten to use it twice, so I don't know if I just need to play around with it more. I did really like the first look that I got with this palette, but I stuck with the neon shades, and they felt like a little bit tricky to build up and get like that full like neon pigment, which is hard with a pressed shadow to get that full payoff on a neon. So I don't know, but anyway, so yeah, so I like this one, but I don't like really like or love it. Like I just like it okay. Next up is the Ace Beauty Oceanic palette. This palette and I have like an up and down relationship. I got it in the original formula and really liked it, but it was just really hard for me to use, and I don't know if it's because I wasn't as skilled at the time or what the deal was, but I just didn't end up reaching for it. So then when it came time for a declutter, I decluttered it because I was like, I just don't really grab for this because I don't know what to do with it, or I struggled to blend out the blues and all that. So then when they reformulated, I was like, well, the only reason I decluttered that palette is because I didn't get along with the formula as well. So I grabbed it in the new formula and then didn't reach for it for like an entire year, I feel like. So I finally used it and I do like it. I think it's nice. I can tell the difference from the quality of the original one. So I like it, but it's still a color story that I'm not reaching for. It's a blue and green color story, and I honestly don't do a ton of blue and green looks. So anyways, those are my thoughts on that. Next up is the Huda Beauty Naughty Nude palette. I actually asked for this palette for Christmas because I felt like this was the one palette I was missing in Huda's like big palette range. So I've only used it once. It was pretty. I liked it. That's really the main reason it's not higher is because I only used it the one time. So I don't know that it's fair to like put it above a ton of other palettes. I kind of feel bad putting it above the Bella Beauty Bar palette and the 90s palette because I haven't used it that much, but I did really like the look I did with it. So, and these are tones that I tend to gravitate towards, and it's really pretty to look at. So anyways, I felt fine doing it. So that's why I did it. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I said that the Naughty Nude palette was new to me because I got it for Christmas. And then the CEO of the Rainbow palette was the only new palette for the month of December. For those of you that are not new here, aren't you all proud of me? Usually I have like a million palettes that are new. That was the only new palette. So anyways, I'm pretty impressed with myself. I did have 2 new to me, but 1 new. So, okay. Anyways, moving it along. Next up, we have the Viseart London Etoile palette. And I always have to show that they put the skyline on this packaging and it's so cute. Anywho, this is what this palette looks like. It's a neutral palette. It's a little bit on the basic side, but it has some fun pops of color. And I feel like you can get a really pretty sultry, smoky look that's more like green or purple. And then you have this like gold, like this antique gold. So I think it's a little bit more interesting than just like a typical neutral palette. So I think it's a cool color story for the 8 pans that you get with it. And I think the packaging's adorable. So that's that on that. I feel like maybe I could have put that one in the next category. I don't know. Well, okay, no, it's in the right category. Okay, moving along. Natasha Denona Circo Loco palette. I do like this palette. I do struggle with the color story a bit. Sometimes I go, I don't really know what to do with this palette. If I combine it with other palettes, I think it works out nicely, but I feel like the combination of mattes and shimmers is a little bit of a head scratcher. But I do like the formula. I think it's really nice. I don't have any quality issues on this palette, so yeah, I like it. It's a little bit difficult for me to figure out what to do with. Next up is the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette. This palette is gorgeous. This palette is the entire reason I was finally able to declutter my Venus XL2, even though I really like that palette, but I love a light pink and green color story. And I think I liked the quality of this palette a lot more than I feel like a lot of other people did, but I thought the shimmers in this palette were the normal Natasha Denona quality. I thought the mattes were nice. The only thing you're missing is a darker matte, and so I'm happy to reach into it. Like this matte right here is the cream to powder formula, so it's not as deep as it looks in pan. So you kind of have to grab for something else, but I don't mind doing it. So I do like that palette. Last up in this category is the Nomad Cosmetics Bosque Monteverde Oh, Bosque Nuboso de Monteverde palette. So this is the Cloud Forest palette. I like this palette. Okay, listen. We gotta talk about something. I always say that I don't really like green eyeshadow, but yet I constantly do green eyeshadow looks. So I don't know what my issue is. I don't know what my issue is with this palette either, but part of what I don't reach for is because I'm like, I don't want to do a green look. And then somehow I end up reaching for other palettes and I end up with a green look anyway. So I don't know. I have issues, I guess. I love the quality of these shadows and I love the shimmers in this palette. So there's a lot of things I really love about this palette, but I just don't grab for it. So that's why I put it in this category. But I did put it at the top of this category because I do think the quality of this palette is by far the best out of all the palettes in this category. And I think the quality is on par with my favorite palettes, but it's just this color story that I struggle with and I don't quite know why. So I don't know, maybe I should try and do like a challenge where I try to do like 5 looks with palettes that I struggle with and see if like I can, you know, figure that out. Let me know if you think that'd be interesting. I'd probably do it on TikTok. All right. And if you don't follow me on TikTok, katelynhousemakeup, same name on Instagram too. Okay. So let's do my really like palettes. So these are all palettes that like truly, really like them. They're just not on the level of holy grail favorites, but I really like them. There is a fine line between this category and the next category, and I think it depends entirely on what look I recently did with it and how I felt about it. So there you go. There's the truth of ranking videos. I have in the past tried to like rank and do like rating systems based on, you know, longevity and blendability and, you know, overall quality, like packaging. I've tried to like factor all of that in so that it was like a more consistent rating and even ranking, and even then it wasn't that consistent because I still was like, I like that one a little bit more. So anyways, I don't know. This is just for funsies and to talk about my thoughts with each palette. Don't put too much stock in it. And I did just declutter my collection, so obviously every palette I have, I liked enough to keep. So that is that. Except for Safari, I did technically declutter though. And so anyways, really like. Let's talk about the Viseart Paris Edit palette. This palette is like, she sneaks up on you. She's so cute. Like there's something about this color story and the shimmers and the like tones of the shimmers that they picked that's just really nice. And it's really pretty and cute. And yeah, it's a vibe. I like it. All right. Next up, we have the Blend Bunny Cosmetics All Done Up palette. I feel like there's 2 rows in this palette that are going to make me fall in love with it. And it's going to be these 2 rows. But I have used these 3 rows so far. I have yet to reach for these 2 rows. So I think that's why it is where it is. But it's the gorgeous Blend Bunny quality. And this is by far my favorite shimmer formula she's had so far. So I like this palette. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I just think I haven't used the 2 rows that are gonna make me like love it, you know? Next up is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. I just think this palette's so beautiful, especially if you want like a fiery eye look. I just think this palette really nails that for me without being like just red and yellow and orange, you know? Like it's got more of the bronzy tones to it, obviously because it's the bronze palette. But anyways, this palette is gorgeous and I especially love it in the summer. I'm doing my Natasha Denona series right now, which is why I used it in December, but it's a gorgeous palette in the summer, especially when you're like all bronzed and glowy and tan. And by you, I mean me. Okay, next up is the last of the new to me. So like I talked about CEO of the Rainbow and Naughty Nude, were so far the palettes that were new for the month. Celestial Garden, between the collab between Bella Beauty Bar and M. Jones 5018. This palette was new to me for the month as well. And it has the like water activated liners and then the different like duochromes and mattes. I really like this palette, but I only got to use it one time before I started my whole like current series I'm doing where I'm only using 10 eyeshadow palettes. So this one, I know you might be like, okay, but Naughty Nude, you said you only use one time and you couldn't put it higher. But I really like the look that came out with this one. I thought the quality of the water-activated liners was nice. I thought the duochromes were gorgeous. And I didn't have any issues. I used these 2 mattes here. I didn't have any issues with them. So yeah, I really like this palette and I want to play with it more, and hopefully I will get to soon. I keep dropping the palettes on top of each other and it's like physically paining me because I think they are breaking. When I said hopefully I will soon, I know I will soon, but I am on day, what is it, 12 of 30 of using only 10 eyeshadow palettes. It's rough. Times are rough out here. Anyways, this is the Lunar Beauty Life's a Drag Facelift palette. Listen. I was gonna skip this palette because I already had Life's a Drag, and I was like, I don't need Life's a Drag facelift. It's just got like a few extra shades. I have this palette already. I don't need it again. I don't even reach for Life's a Drag. So that's what I did. And then I recently used, well, recently before I bought it, because I bought this like summer last year. So I used Life's a Drag sometime last year. And I was like, this doesn't work like I remember it working. And then I saw Angelica Nyqvist do a video with this palette and I loved the look. And I was like, I'm going to just buy it. So I bought the palette at that time. And then I just like, I keep reaching for this. And I'm like, it's like re-stoked my love for Life's a Drag. So yeah, I've reached for this quite a few times since I've gotten it. And I really like it. I think it's nice. The mattes are great. You have kind of like, and this is what made me hesitate on getting this, is because you have basically the like neutral shimmers in the middle. I don't even know if you can see it. You have basically the neutral shimmers in the middle. So I feel like, what are you supposed to do with this colorful color story? But I have so many like special singles or all shimmer palettes or, you know, multi-chromes or whatever that I can mix with these colorful shades. So I think that's helping me like kind of reach for that palette a little bit more. All right, next up is the Witchcraft palette from Spellbound Beauty. And let me tell you, these duochromes are gorgeous. They are seriously so freaking beautiful. Are these all duochromes? I feel like these are duochromes, but like they're such good duochromes that they almost feel like multi-chromes. They are so good. I love them. And while these mattes aren't my favorite, I don't totally hate them. And they're really nice if you just want to work like one of these mattes into your crease and then just plop one of these duochromes on the lid and let that do the work. Like you can get a complete look with this palette, no problem. It's just, I tend to reach for my other mattes that I like better and then just grab for the duochromes in the middle. But this palette, it is delightful. I really like their shimmer form. Next up is the Adept Cosmetics makeup palette. I love this palette. It's so pretty. She is very messy. So if you don't like glitter fallout or like just like chunky glitter, or like not glitters, chunky shimmers, sparkle fallout, whatever, like probably stay away from this palette because she is super messy. But I do my eyes first and I love this palette. It's so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. These two multi-chromes down here are absolutely stunning. I've yet to do a look with this palette that I haven't liked. Every single shade. And then when I've pulled in just a one or two shades from this palette to add to another palette, it's just always brought that look to the next level. And I just really like this. And you might be thinking I should have probably put it in the next higher category because I like this a lot, but you know, decisions had to be made. It is what it is, but I really like that palette. Okay, next up is the, I could have probably put Minka above the next two, but whatever. This is where I'm saying, like, within the category, it's kind of hard. Anyways, Clarity Cosmetics Apocalypse. I really like this palette. I was obsessed with the last look I did with this palette, which was with the blues and purpley pinks. When I first did a look with this palette, I didn't really like it. It was these two red shades. I've now used the other shades in the palette. Gorgeous. I love all of them. So I think it was my beef with red eyeshadow that had this palette so low, but I really liked this. It lasted all day. I had zero creasing with these shimmers. So while they feel a little bit funky when you touch them, like they feel almost kind of grainy, they're not like super, I don't know how to explain it. They last really long on the lid and they didn't cause any like eye issues or anything. And I just think it's so pretty. And then it's like a zombie themed palette, so that's my jam. Okay. Last up in the really light category is the Natasha Denona Trio Chrome palette. So this palette looks like this. I really like this palette. I mean, the multi-chromes in the middle are not the most spectacular multi-chromes, but I will say they are soft multi-chromes. So if you have textured lids and you don't like how multi-chromes look on your lids because they enhance texture, these are super soft. And so that while they're subtle shifts, I feel like they don't enhance texture on the lid. So I think they would look more flattering on a wider variety of people. I don't even know if this palette's still available, so I probably shouldn't wax on too poetically about it, but I really like this color story. It's like a grungy pastel color story, and I'm here for it. I really like it, especially when I combine it with, like I said, all my special singles and stuff that I have. Isn't it interesting that I only had 3 new palettes, 2 new to me, 1 like new for the month of December, which is low for my typical purchasing power. Anyways, and I got to use so many older palettes. Like, weird how that works, isn't it? Okay, anyways, last category. Are you ready? Drum roll. Okay, so last category palettes are palettes that I absolutely love. I just love them. So first up is going to be the Unearthly Cosmetics 1964 palette. This is what the palette looks like. I feel like this palette is slept on out of the whole Halloween launch. I just think Lily and Marilyn are such gorgeous shades. And let me see. Sorry, I was just making sure. 2 of my other Unearthly palettes like dried out. So I just want to make sure that I'm... Oh my God, look at those. It's beautiful. Are you kidding me? Like, why is nobody talking about how gorgeous these are? Do you see that? This one's not shifty. It's just like a pretty green shimmer. This one shifts like dark blue to teal. Oh my God, it's so pretty. Okay. I don't know why I started swatching things. Anyways, I was a little bit nervous about this palette because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that color story. But then when I got the chance to play around with the color story, I really liked the looks that I did. And I felt like it pushed me out of my comfort zone, but not so far out that I was like, ooh, I don't know how to make this look good. It pushed me just enough outside that I did some different looks with it, and I really liked all of them. And I think it's pretty. And it almost, to me, feels like a half neutral, half colorful palette, because you got kind of the pinkies, like the pinky shades here, which I know it's purple and like coral, so it's not necessarily neutral, but they can be, you know, toned down. And then the 2 shimmers aren't like super crazy, and then you've got like the really bright colorful. So anyways, I like this palette a lot. Again, I talked a lot about that and it's not available, but I have heard through the grapevine that they are restocking those Halloween palettes eventually, but with different packaging. So I really hope that's true. Anyways, next up is the Simply Posh Cosmetics Genuine Gems palette. Here we are. Look at that gorgeousness. Beautiful, right? Gorgeous purple row. I don't even like reds. Beautiful red row. This like duochrome that's like a yellow purple. Are you kidding me? Beautiful yellows, greens, blues. Stunning. 10 out of 10. Seriously, it's so beautiful. And then the shimmer formula is really nice. I like this a lot. And I like the matte formula. I know it's like a rainbow palette, but it's a really pretty one. So I'm a big fan of that. Next up is the kaleydosmakeup Flower Punk palette. I haven't reached for this palette in a hot minute, but I love this color story and I love the quality, and I have such a good time every time I reach for this palette. So yeah, I really like this palette a lot. I think it's fun. And I finally took it out of its box packaging, and look at how gorgeous this packaging is. It's seriously beautiful. Next up is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. She is beautiful. I feel like with having green eyes, having these more like purpley toned shades for neutrals makes my eyes pop. So I love this palette. This is one of my favorite palettes to use for neutral looks. I just think it's really pretty. The shimmers are pretty. I just really enjoy this. Every time I use it, I'm like, yeah, this is great. I love it. Next up is the Be Perfect Cosmetics and Stacey Marie collab, the Carnival 5 Interstellar palette, and that is the longest name in the world for the largest palette in the world. This is by far the biggest palette in my collection, but there's something about it that just has me continuing to reach for it. Now, I will say I do think I prefer the mattes a little bit over the shimmers in this, so I tend to reach more for the mattes and then pull in my shimmers from other things. But I don't hate these foiled glitter shades. I always avoid pressed glitters. I don't like pressed glitters. I don't like how they look. I don't like the process of applying them, and then I'm too nervous about like scratching my cornea to like continue to use them. But these are like really fine milled, and they're called like glitter foils, but they just feel like really sparkly toppers. So I really liked using them. And then I did like the shimmer formula, but it's just like, that's not what stands out. It's more the mattes and the color story. I will say this pastel yellow doesn't pack quite as much of a punch as I would like it to. I can't talk. Anyways, I'm just being nitpicky now, but I do really like this palette, and honestly, I keep reaching for it, so that should tell you a lot. Next up is the Bella Beauté Bar Angles of Illumination 3 palette. That when I talk about like my special shimmer palettes, this is the palette, one of the palettes that I'm talking about. I really love this palette. I love the duochrome, multi-chromes in here. It's gorgeous, it's fun. It's delightful. I love it. I think it's great. And I know I put an all shimmer palette pretty high up, but honestly, I'm to the point in my life where if it's all an all matte palette or an all shimmer palette, it doesn't bother me because I just marry them together. So it is what it is. And I have so many eyeshadow palettes that I almost prefer to use multiple for a look. Today, in fact, if you're curious, I'm wearing the Strange and Unusual palette from Bella Beauté Bar and my Surge palette from Blend Bunny. So see, I still use 2 palettes. Next up, we have the Oden's Eye Christmas Eve palette. I don't know if it was the season, you know, the month, it was December when I used this, but I really had so much fun playing with this palette. I think it's really pretty. I do kind of not know what to do with the color story, but again, it's one of those similar to 1964 where it's kind of a confusing color story for me, so I had to like try some different things, and I really loved what I've come up with. And also the shade Gorgeous is a multi-chrome down here. So beautiful. It's really, really stunning. So I like this palette a lot. I will probably continue to reach for that palette year round, if we're being honest. It's such a good one. Next up is, of course, its companion palette, the Merry Christmas palette. And I put this one above the other one because I found that I like this one a little bit more, which is shocking to me because I tend to go for that other color story a bit more. But there's something about this one that's just special. I don't know what it is, but I really love this palette a lot. And I'm probably just going to leave it right there because those palettes are limited edition and no longer available. So anyways, last palette, Blend Bunny Cosmetics Surge. I do have this palette on my eyes today because this is one of my palettes where I said if I could only keep 10 palettes in my entire collection, this is one of the ones I would pick. So I'm able to use it right now during my 30 days. But this is what the palette looks like. It's beautiful. You have a grungy and neon color story, which I was thinking about it this morning and I was like, that's why I love this palette. Like, what's not to like? Now, I don't love the shimmers in this. What's not to like? The shimmers. I don't really like the shimmer formula in this palette. Honestly, if we did away with that row and made this shorter, be like perfect for me. But it's okay. I don't mind having the shimmers in there. I just don't grab them. I grab for my shimmers in my other palettes. But yeah, I really enjoy this palette and I think Blend Bunny has the best matte formula ever. So yeah, those were all, let me count how many palettes I used in December. Those were all 27 palettes that I used in the month of December. Let me know your thoughts on this ranking in the comments down below. I always love chatting makeup with all of you, even when we have different opinions, because it's okay to have different opinions. That's what makes the world fun. So if you love any of these palettes, please don't take it as like me slighting you or thinking that you know, have bad taste or whatever. Like there's certain, like I said, I'm gonna try and remember to put her Instagram handle in the description box. Every look she's done with 9Ts I've been obsessed with. I just don't like it on me as much. So like we all have different skin colors, different eye colors, different hair colors, different combination of all 3. So, you know, different clothing colors that we wear. So certain palettes and certain color stories might look really good, you know, with how somebody does their makeup and just not feel as good for somebody else. So it's okay if you love a palette and think it's amazing and I don't, or it's okay if you totally hated a palette and I really like it. It's all good, you know? We just gotta, it's makeup, it's fun. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox now, but that's it for me. I will see you all next time. Bye!